Well, obviously, let me start by thanking the Chases for extending their hospitality to us here today and bringing us all, us ragtag politicos, into their home here and into this beautiful theater. And I also want to thank him and his son William for the confidence that they've shown in me. I talked to them a couple of months ago when I was just thinking about pursuing this. And the encouragement that they gave me personally was very, very significant to me in making the decision to go ahead and pursue this office of state chairman here in Connecticut. And I have to say, their enthusiasm and that of town chairmen throughout the state, some of whom are here today, some of my fellow legislators, members of the State Central Committee, many people who said, please go ahead and do this. I'm not always, for someone who's in this business, I'm not always the most comfortable person putting himself forward. But I think we are in a very tough situation. And I think that we need to change directions, as Arnold said. And I want to thank all of you for coming here today, some of you for traveling a good distance, and for giving me your attention now for a stretch. I feel like the first thing we have to realize is that we are all on the same team together. And whatever happens, we've got to focus on working together as a unit, on realizing that there is something tremendously important at stake, which is the future of this state and this country, and that we have been selected by our fellow Republicans, and perhaps one might say by fate, by our circumstances, to be the ones right now that make a difference for this party. I know what desperate shape our state is in, and anybody who's up there who's looked at this budget and who sees our economic situation knows how bad off we are. The only way we're going to turn that around is by revitalizing the Republican Party and taking control here in the state of Connecticut. So the question we have in front of us, I'm convinced, is if we're all on one team and we only can succeed as one team. When I say that too, it means the success of every one of us is critical to each other. None of us can win without the others winning, and all of us will lose if any of us lose. We say, what do we do to strengthen this team, this Republican team? I think what we have to do is we have to look at two things. What are the challenges that face us? What are the things that have to be fixed? What are our priorities? And how do we approach those priorities? Both in terms of a method of approaching them, of specific solutions, and of a way to pulling together to get them solved. Now, as far as the priorities go, in my low-tech way, I have handed you out a piece of paper. You know, I had a choice, I have to say, knowing that there's a magnificent screen behind me, of either dazzling you with a video presentation or letting it go all together. It would have taken me months. And I have to say, my goal is not to dazzle you today. My goal is to speak to you and for you to understand what I'm thinking and to understand who I am and how I would go about things. So we'll keep the screen closed. I wish we could. I wish we could show Lawrence of Arabia on it, but otherwise we won't work with it. So I've given you a list of things that struck me off the top of my head, I would say almost, as an agenda for our party going forward. And I believe that one of the primary responsibilities of a state chairman is to set an agenda, to determine what it is that we should be working on. What should the meetings be about? What should we be discussing? Now, I don't say that the 11 things I ended up putting down on here are necessarily the same 11 that you would pick. But I think all of us know that a lot of these things, we all have the same general list of things that need to be done. In this sense, it's fundamentals. You know, a little like a sports team. If I were taking over a football team and somebody said, what are you going to do? I'd say we got to tackle, we got to block, we got to execute, we've got to do the same things that everybody's been doing in football for 100 years. And I think in politics it's largely the same things too. there are certain fundamental challenges that we have to face up to. And those are some of the things that I've put on this list. I'm not going to go through all of them. We might have the chance, I'm going to talk for a little while, then we'll take some questions, and then we'll have a chance to go back down to the music room for a few minutes too, so we'll have some chance for some conversation. And we have several months to work our way through the process of selecting a chairman. So I'm not expecting that this is going to be the last time that we talk, either that I communicate from you or that I hear from you. You have my number and my email, and I'm happy to hear from you anytime. But I want to take a few of the things on the list just to talk about how I think they might be approached. And let me start with one, not number one. Number one is number one. We all know that. We'll get to that one last. But let me start with one that has always been on the list for as long as I've been in politics, and that I've never seen solved at the state level, which is data. I think it's a tremendous frustration that we have to struggle to have, just even as a candidate, to have the kind of accurate, usable, friendly data that we need from cycle to cycle. I've run 3 times now since 2010 for the state senate, and not once have I had the kind of data I wanted just on a fundamental level. But even worse, we have failed to keep pace with the Democrats on the really subtle and deep uses of data which are possible. You know, there was a time back in the 1990s when the Republicans were far ahead of the Democrats in the use of data. Those days are past. We've lost our lead, and they have a big step over us. I imagine I'm not the only person in this room that is a member of, or on the email list of Organizing for Action, the successor for Organizing for America, because I want to see what the other side is doing. And what they do terrifies me, but you've got to have proper data available to you. And you've got to be able to do the kind of micro-targeting that now has become, on that side, commonplace. To say it's not enough just to know that how somebody's registered or what their voting habits are, the things we're accustomed to wanting to have on hand. But to know what magazines they subscribe to know what kind of car they drive, to know all the kinds of things that help to define them as a human being. We've got to get back into that game. And we can't count on the National Party to do it for us. I'll say this, the National Party would be willing to help us. They have funding available for projects like that, and they have expertise. But it's something we need to work out here on our own before we can go and ask them for the help. So how do we do it? I could give you, at this point, we could open this up and have a beautiful PowerPoint about data. I'm not the data provider. I understand data from the point of view of using it as a candidate and as a campaign manager. I know if it's available to me what I can do with it. I can, if I say, give me Democrats over 50 in the East End of Waterbury, I know the letter to write to them. I know the piece to give them. But I have to have that available to me. How do we go about getting the hardware, the software, the staff, the resources to determine what we need for data? Here's what I would do as state chairman. I would ask Chuck Pine. I haven't talked to him about it. There's a man I think we all know, we trust. I'd even go so far as to say I think we all like him. And he has been obsessed with this problem for as long as I've known him. And I don't know anyone who knows any more about it than he does. I would say, Chuck, let's put together a group of people out of State Central, State Central members or not State Central members, Connecticut Republicans. Let's figure out what their task is going to be, what their timeline is going to be, what resources they're going to be, come back to the state party, report to us on it, give us something we can all believe in, give us something that we all can buy into, and let's go forward with this. And I would approach a lot of problems that way. Not every problem, but a lot of problems by bringing in the State Central Committee members and by giving them the responsibility. And this is something I have to say I have not understood about the function of State Central for many of the years when I have been watching it, which has been a tendency to hold the members of State Central at a distance. If anything, to keep them a little bit in the dark about what's going on, rather than making them a part of it as much as possible. We've got 74 committed people who have all kinds of talent. There's more to be done than raising money, as important as that is. We've got to take from all of them what they can contribute. I'll say this, I feel like something I've been good at as a legislator is given a pile of pegs and a board full of holes is trying to find what peg will fit into what hole. What can be done to make people useful? And that would be my goal at State Central. And like Arnold, I've got no interest in criticizing the leadership we have. And if you've heard what I've said, I feel a lot of respect and gratitude for what the chairman has done. But I don't see how you can talk about cutting meetings down to 4 times a year. I think it shows that the whole frame of mind about our relationship with State Central is wrong. I want to work the members of State Central harder than they have ever been worked. I want them to contribute more than they've ever contributed. And I don't want to scare anybody, but I don't think I will scare anybody. You wouldn't be honest if you didn't think that you could contribute.